everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to one of MPN's Dealer Excellence tracks. This one is all about talent and training, and we're excited to cover this topic with you guys. This is a obviously very important topic that every dealer deals with, and to help me walk through some of the things we're going to talk about, I've got a few dealers up here. So I'm going to start down at the end here with Brent Gyuricza. Brent is the dealer principal of Maverick Motorsports, a Montana-based dealership that's grown to over $16 million in sales in just over 8 years. In the middle here is Michael Maledon. He is president of Elway Powersports, which owns 5 Powersport dealer locations. Michael joined the Elway dealership group in 2016. And right here is AJ Meisel. AJ has been part of the powersports industry for more than 30 years and is the general manager of Plano Kawasaki Suzuki, and also serves on Kawasaki's National Dealer Council and is chaired and is still an active member of a 20 group. So with that, we'll get into our conversation here. Now we do have some audience participation through menti.com. If you guys have seen other presentations that have used this, there's some information up on the screen about how to pull that up. And we're going to kick it off with a question for you guys. We want to ask dealers in attendance if you have lost an employee in 2023. And while you guys are answering that, we'll get into our first question here. Now, obviously, all three of you over the years have had to hire plenty of dealership staff. I want to have you guys walk through some of the ways you guys have gone about attracting staff in the dealership, good and bad. Tell us a couple things that maybe even didn't work and a couple things that have worked. Brent, I'll start down there with you if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Thank you. And we are still giving away free motorcycles, CF Moto at the end of the thing. So step back here to the stage. I think some of the things that we've tried a lot is, Facebook. I mean, used to be the newspaper, whatever that common form is, or Craigslist. You get a lot of resumes. You spend a lot of time interviewing a lot of people. It doesn't work. One of the things that I talked about yesterday and was just talking about a minute ago was attracting customers. Customers that come in that have a love, have a passion for motorsports, that may have zero training. One of my longest standing staff, one of my most successful staff, one of our highest paid staff was an Aaron's Furniture guy, and he stopped by during lunch break to look at motorcycles. I got talking with him, and during the course of the conversation, he was telling me that he actually was coming back from repossessing furniture. And I thought, boy, if you can repossess furniture, I bet you could sell motorcycles. And he's like, I never thought about that, but he's like, I bet I could. So we sat down, and at the end of that conversation, he said, I'm going to go give my 2 weeks notice, and I'm going to come to work for you in 2 weeks. And now 8 years, almost 8 years later, one of our best employees. So I think we need to think outside of the box. We need to realize there's people out there that are may not be thinking about working in motorsports that are fantastic hires, and you're not going to find them through Indeed or Craigslist.
Yeah, very good. Michael, do you want to tell us a couple things that have worked and maybe something that hasn't worked in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think Brent made some great points there. I think our best source of hiring people is your own employees. I mean, they're the best ambassadors for your store, good and bad. So hopefully you have a good culture and they can communicate to their friends and people that they meet. When we're looking to hire, oftentimes we'll give recruitment bonuses to our employees. That's worked well. But also echo a little bit what Brent said. We also do use job postings like Hireology or Indeed. And I think oftentimes our managers are looking for that perfect resume. We're looking for a salesperson, and they're bypassing these people that don't have sales experience. And what I've encouraged them to do, in fact, I've written kind of like just a generic reply that we'll send to every single applicant that says if I get an applicant from somebody that works, he's a manager at McDonald's, that reply will say something like, thank you for your interest. Typically the successful applicant will have some sales experience or, have some, experience with Powersports. Please let us know how you'll be a successful employee. And oftentimes you'll be amazed at some of the answers. You'll get an answer, from some somebody that says, well, in fact, I grew up, my dad, owned 8 motorcycles, and he and I worked on his tools all the time, and so they'll explain their connection to the industry, and so I really encourage you to just don't look at the resume itself. Engage with that person, and if there's any glimmer of hope, get them into the store, and then you'll find all these diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, very good. AJ?
I just want to say ditto and ditto. Same thing. We use all of the normal ways to find employees, but again, our staff helps, but our reputation really helps us get good people. I feel like we're asking these people for their resumes and we're judging them by the resumes. And we forget to look at our own establishments and realize that we have our own resume. We have some really great things to offer. Each of you has your own unique situation at your dealerships, and you should be proud of that. You've probably banked a lot on that and built that culture. And so I would probably start with, making sure that you have a nice resume to give out, to tell the employees. You don't have to necessarily give them a piece of paper, but something that you can say, this is what we're known for, to kind of attract those people. And you'll find that you probably have some people that really, really are inspired by that and want to come to work for you because they want to come to work for something that's meaningful to them.
No, that's very well said. Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to ask you another question here for the audience. This time we want to know if you have lost an employee, why you lost that employee. So there's a couple answers here. If you guys could take a second to answer that. And while you do that, I'm gonna run back through. Guys, give me that one thing that has seemed to have worked over the last few years for attracting talent. Like what's that one thing you guys kind of keep going back to that has paid off? Brent?
For attracting talent, boy, I know yesterday we talked a lot about culture. I think for us specifically, when we opened our first store in Missoula, it really was culture because we had all passionate motorcycle riders, and we were mostly a motorcycle shop at that time. Yamaha didn't have ATVs or they had ATVs. They didn't really have side-by-sides at that time. But that culture started really with a heavy emphasis in motorsports. And I think that followed through into creating almost a family atmosphere. So I think the more your employees feel accountable to each other, then it's not about a paycheck. It's about, these are people that I like. These are people that I ride with. These are people that I want to hang out with. To some degree, these are people that I do life with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly an important aspect of working anywhere, right? Michael, how about you? What's one tactic that has seemed to be helpful and really paid off?
Yeah, I mean, again, it sounds repetitive, but it's absolutely culture. I think your employees have to be happy, your managers have to be good leaders, and word spreads. I mean, I think back, we didn't even announce. We were looking for a sales manager at one of our dealerships, and we hadn't even posted it. And out of the blue, I got a call from an excellent 10-year sales manager at one of our competitors that said, "Hey, I heard word of mouth that you guys have an opening, and I really want to work for your organization." And it was amazing. And he just told me that how he had heard about how we treat employees. And so I think if you build that reputation in town and your people genuinely like to work there, I think that it makes it a lot easier to attract people and not just have to be the highest paying employer in town.
Absolutely. AJ, anything different from what these two guys have mentioned?
Not really. Reputation, culture, and a lot of times people will come to you.
Very good. All right, so we'll move on a little bit here and talk about maintaining talent, because obviously once you get someone in the door, you gotta work to keep them there. So let's talk about some of the things that have paid off for you guys to keep people, in your dealership. And like we just asked the audience, not looking for that other job, not seeking out the different dealership. Maybe money is part of that equation too. What are some of those things that have paid off maintaining? AJ?
So we do a little bit of a different compensation plan. I talked a little bit about this yesterday, but for us it's, ask the question. When asked the question of, what people's priorities are, usually being a part of something is more important to them than money. And so we already have that established. You've got a culture, you've got a reputation set. But definitely listen to what the employees' needs are and try to meet those needs. I joke around all the time about, how much time we spend, at our dealerships. And it's most of the time we're spending more time with our employees than we are with our own family. And so they become our family, right? And so how do we work on maintaining those relationships? We have to work at it. And, I kid, but it's true. We talk about the love languages of our spouse, is our spouse, are we speaking their love language? What do they need? Is it time off? Maybe give them a Saturday off every once in a while, or if it's compensation, you make sure you do that part of their need. But if we take care of their needs, they're going to take care of your dealership. Did you give them time off to grieve? Are they grieving for a pet? That may be the most important relationship they've had in their life. We have to be compassionate to their needs and think about each person and what they need. It's hard sometimes, especially for you guys that have multiple dealerships, to really know what those are. So I would say having leadership there that can take care of those, making sure that leadership is intact and is paying attention to the employee needs. So hiring compassionate leaders, I think, is really important. I joked yesterday too about, I had such a hard time for a while when I was younger in our industry of, really understanding the younger generation, right? And it seemed like every day I stayed frustrated with the staff, and they just don't get it. That's what I said. I must have said that 1,000 times. They don't get it. And what I realized is I was the one with the problem, They were millennials, and I was speaking plain English, and they spoke Japanese to me. What their needs were different from, what my needs were. So, I took a class on learning to speak millennial, and that really helped me embrace this younger generation. And instead of them, really giving me the frustration, I recognized the problem started with me. So sometimes you have to look within yourself and decide, am I doing everything I can do to grow myself for the sake of the dealership? So.
Yeah, no, there's excellent advice there, and we're going to circle back more on the leadership topic here in a second. But Michael, I'll go to you on just some of those tactics for maintaining talent once you've got them in the dealership.
Yeah, I mean, it's number one, I think, onboarding is so important. I think that when we find that right employee, it's so critical in the first day, first week that we onboard them properly. We get them around the dealership. Everybody knows who this person is. We make them feel special. We have a written job description that's very clear on the expectations. We kind of let him know, he or she know what their first 30 days are going to be. Here's the training schedule. I think we're fortunate. We offer competitive pay, competitive benefits. I know many in the dealership competitors don't offer benefits, but I think that's important. And then the other thing that's a lot like AJ just mentioned is making sure that your employees feel valued and that they have managers that are taking an interest in who they are and what their career path is. And I think it's because we have multiple dealerships, we can offer that vision of a career path. You might come here as a lot porter, but I can help explain to somebody how we can train them into a position, become, if they want to be a general manager, well, let's get you to be a service manager. And that, so you're going to learn how to be a service writer, and then you're going to learn how to be a service manager. And if the position isn't open in this store, we might have other stores. So I think really just getting to know your employees and making sure that they're feeling valued, and everyone's not going to be happy every single day, and it's important that you're checking in on them. And like AJ said, if they just take an interest and have it be a place where they want to come to work.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Brent, I know yesterday you were talking about some more unique.
I'll hit incentives. I know we might circle back to that, but I do want to say, AJ, you mentioned the love languages, and I thought about that after the meeting the other day. What is that book? I know there's a book about love languages.
It's the 5 love languages.
5 love languages. I think if you guys didn't pick up on that, I think that's a really interesting insight. So. One of the ways we've been retaining employees, and I noticed the thing again, same as yesterday. Most of you in here have lost an employee this year to another dealership. We were just wondering, how many of you as dealers stole someone from another dealership? Because there's about a half dozen people that wanted to talk to you. Nobody? No. You stole people? Oh, you're not supposed to admit it. I was sorry. We have people that we're losing to dealerships. We've lost them mostly to automotive and to RV dealerships. I think it was a real wake-up call when one of the large RV dealerships in the area went and offered my son a job, and he had to approach me about the fact they offered him $40,000 more a year as a flat and with bonuses. That's a real eye-opener, and so it really makes you think, what are we doing to retain our people? And I think if we make it just about money, we're not going to win that battle. So that's, again, where we come back to culture. But I think there's incentives and ways that we can keep people around longer. So one of the things that I do, and I think we're on our 6th employee that we've helped get into their first-time house. And so we set aside money and we help train them and educate them. If they're not a homeowner, we help them get into their first house. If they're already a homeowner, we have another incentive plan where we help them get into a motorsport vehicle of their choosing. We also take one of our incentives that has been really, I think, that we adjusted and has been really helpful. We used to give Christmas bonuses. We stopped doing Christmas bonuses because we had so many employees that hang out with you through the off season and then are immediately picked up by another dealership, an RV dealership, a car dealership in April, right when you're getting ready to sell. So I now do retention bonuses on September 1st. So they make it through the season. If they've been with us over 6 months, we do a percentage retention bonus at the end of that time. So I think the incentives, some of the ways that we can, are some creative ways that we can keep our employees around longer. So I'd encourage you to think outside of the box when it comes to those.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, guys. All right, so another big aspect of retaining and maintaining, your dealership staff is in the form of training, right? And it's something that has to constantly be done on the sales and the technician side. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys do at your dealerships for training your staff. AJ, we'll start with you.
We require that they obviously take care of all of their manufacturer training. That's absolute. We get paid incentives from the manufacturers to do that, so every employee has to be 100% of the time. But we do invest in outside training. So if there's an opportunity to send someone somewhere, we typically do that, and not just for leadership. So I think that when you invest in your people, they feel valued and a part of the team. I love that word, valued, that you said. We also, when someone onboards, we set them up with a tenured person, someone that's been there for a little bit longer. We usually give them a little bonus to help train so they can shadow that person. That also gives them kind of a big brother to tag along with at the shop, or sister, if it's a female. But that helps them feel, the employee that's doing the training, and helps them feel a little bit more included in the team and important, which is important for this generation coming up. but it also gives that new employee someone to go to.
Excellent. Yeah, Michael, you want to talk about what you guys do and maybe speak to the multiple dealerships? You know, is there any difference there, you know, versus what AJ might be dealing with just the one location?
Yeah, I mean, you know, certainly the OEM training is a must. You got to keep up with that. And you know, I look at, you know, like on the automotive side, it can be a lot easier. You know, if you're a Toyota employee, you just got to keep up with the Toyota. You know, but you know, I got a store in Lincoln that's got 12 different franchises, and that is a lot of training. But you know, it's required. But so the other thing I would say too, though, is again, if you properly onboard somebody. And you have a clear written job description. If you do frequent reviews, you know, last year we probably did annual reviews, and we, you know, collectively made a commitment this year that we're going to try to do quarterly reviews, because I think it's so helpful to sit down that employee to say, let's kind of go through to go back to your job description here. You're doing this really well. You're doing this really well. You know, you're really struggling here. You know, and let's train, like, you know, have that one-on-one with your employee to say, you know, why do you think you're struggling? You know, I didn't really ever understand how to work the CRM. Well, let's get you some more training on that CRM. I mean, whatever the issue is. And so I think that's, you know, just constant, really every single day is an opportunity to train when, you know, when we're not busy and, you know, an issue that, you know, you saw a salesperson that, you know, didn't close the deal, like, you know, didn't give the word track that maybe you would have given. That's always an opportunity to train. But I think, again, if you have a good written job description, using that as part of your frequent review process is really a good roadmap on what needs to be trained.
Excellent. Brent, anything to add there?
You know, I think everything you guys said, obviously I'm gonna ditto that, but I think one of the things that we have done is, because there are a lot of manufacturers, I think we represent also somewhere around 10, 12 manufacturers. We have kind of learned that there are certain manufacturers that have some better trainings or have some better modules. And so even if it doesn't apply to a specific employee, there are certain modules that we will pick out and we make mandatory for them. Along with that, same as that, Yamaha, their Silver Tech training program, I think, is actually the best service tech training program out there. So even our guys that are not Yamaha techs, we'll send them to the Yamaha Silver training just because we feel like it has one of the best offerings. And they come back, every tech comes back from that training just absolutely amazed by what they learned. And with that, and I'll close, this will be a little bit different take. All of us like free money. I mean, as dealers, we like rebates, we like incentives, and I know this can be a little controversial, but there are programs through workforce, through job studies. Every single city has an amount of federal dollars that are allocated for training, and so we will oftentimes go to those different job programs or job services and find out where those training programs are, and we will get up to 50% of our training reimbursed for some of our employees. So if you're investing in your employees, there are subsidies to get you some dollars back if you're not opposed to that. And I think that's makes it a little bit easier sometimes when you're trying to justify spending $5,000 or $10,000 to train an employee. If Uncle Sam wants to give you 50% of it back, I'm personally okay with taking it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, you know, everyone loves a little bit of discount, no matter, you know, what form it comes in. All right, guys, we're going to ask you another question on menti.com. We want to know how often you guys train your sales and tech staff at your dealerships. So if you could take a second, answer that, and while you're doing it, we'll ask these guys how often, you know, they're training their staffs, as well as maybe a way or two that you guys have gone above and beyond in your training efforts. So AJ, we'll start with you. You know, how often do you think, you know, you guys train, and what goes above and beyond?
So I shared this yesterday. We're always training. Something I actually forgot about was in between time when we don't have training going on. So we'll ship our techs to training school. We'll close down the service department for those days. You know, that's constant. The sales team, every time a new product comes out and there's a new product class, we have a sales meeting every morning that I host, and we talk about those things. And it's one of the first things they do after they get their tasks done. But something that we've started doing this past year, as we added product lines and the manufacturers have added more product that is more technical, frankly, than, just our basic stuff that we used to have. It seems like every vehicle has a different interface. I've been doing this 30 years and I get confused. So we started servicing units on the floor, and we'll skip once a week. We'll skip a week of, a day of sales meeting, and actually one person volunteers to learn that new product that came in, and they basically do a product knowledge walk around like they are the OEM, and they teach us about that unit. And it's great. We get a lot of good volunteers on that. We video those. We also have, other people that come in and watch those that are key employees, or not key employees, but like our influencers and things in our area. So that's something extra we've done. Every person, gets that training, though. We don't skip whether it's service or sales. If there's training that needs to be had, we do that. And I think as leaders, we are constantly growing ourselves, and I think it's important to inspire our team to do the same thing.
Excellent. And I noticed a good thing that no one put that they never train their employees out there in the audience, so that's good. Michael, how about you? How often are you guys training, and what have you done to go above and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, certainly whenever the OEMs, you got to keep up with your OEM training, and of course it differs between sales and service, but that's mandatory. A couple unique things that we've done that I think is really helpful is we will take managers from one of our dealerships and go have them go spend a day and a half at one of our other dealerships where we think we have a strong manager there, and they always come away, just thankful, and I think that not only is, can they pick something up, but then they've got a colleague, a mentor that they can call and, say, as they have other issues. So I think if you have the ability to do that, I think that's wonderful. And the other thing that's really important to us, we talked about training, and we oftentimes when we think about training kind of the junior staff, but equally important and frankly more important is making sure you're training the leaders in your organization. That management training, and AJ touched on it. As leaders, we need to be training ourselves too. We need to be getting better and better all the time. I mean, so I'm a better leader today than I was last year, and hope next year I will be. But I'm constantly investing in myself in terms of reading. There's some wonderful business books out there. I think I mentioned Simon Sinek is one of my favorite. And he's got a great line that says, leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those that are in our charge. And I encourage my young managers to do the same, to read books. We started a program this year where every month we're going to pick a book and all the managers are going to read it together and kind of talk about it. So I think that's oftentimes overlooked, but when you build a culture where people understand the importance of leadership, then I think it makes them better managers, and the people that are below them can kind of aspire to be part of that culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always about constantly evolving and making yourself better, right? Brent, and I wanted to also ask, how much of that should be driven by the employees themselves versus the dealership, if you want to weigh in on that notion?
Oh, it's a good question. Boy, I mean, you'd love it, of course, if employees always drove it, and there are some employees that do. They ask for that additional training. That's always fantastic. Those are usually your guys that you should be thinking about as future managers, right? Because they're already on top of that thought process. I would say our three training points are: when it's slow, if there's nothing to do, don't stand around. If you're not cleaning, you better be doing some training. Quarterly, of course, we're always reviewing where they're at in modules, and we may even ask them to go back through another module if we feel like there's a lack and there's something there. I know not everyone is a trainer. I know I'm not a trainer. I know I always have like the best intentions. I can be like, oh, I want to sit down and do some training with that person, but I know I'm not going to do it. So but I can schedule things through modules. I'm going to be like, hey, you're responsible for that. But also annually, we try and get all of our key staff through some type of an annual training, whether it's coming even to AIMExpo and sitting in on these classes. If we send someone here to AIM, we're going to be like, yeah, you better get a check off. I want to know what you learned, what modules you sat, what classes you sat in, or sending them to Garage Composites. I've got our general manager going through Garage Composites right now. Sent a service manager through them last year. There's so many great training resources. If you're not a trainer, if you don't have a trainer on your staff, then pull in a resource, because there's a lot of great guys. There's a lot of people that have been here at this convention that are available for training. So there's no excuse to not train.
Absolutely. All right, I want to circle back to the leadership topic, since AJ, you and Michael both touched on it earlier. You guys want to talk a little bit about those instances where leadership should change or can change, and some of that mentality, like being a boss versus a leader, and what has its place in the dealership. Brent, I'm going to go back down to you, since we won't make you go last this time.
Leadership, I guess I'm not a boss. I can't be. So I hire people to be the boss. I've always felt that, leading by example, or leading by the way you think things should be done. So, when things get rough or tough, or things need to be done, I'm happy to pick up a hose, wash a bike, do whatever is necessary. But we also know that as leaders, sometimes that's not the highest and best use. So you got to be able to be willing to do any job, I think. And I think people learn that, they see that, and everyone should feel like they're in that exact same place. But as a leader, I think it's our primary job to seek out, find, and train leaders within our group. We can't be the only leaders. Again, going back to culture, the culture should be a culture of development and training and leadership development. And as you build leaders in your culture and in your family, that's going to be what continues to sustain your growth as a business.
Yeah, excellent. Michael, you had that nice quote. Anything to add on top of that?
No, I think Brent said it great. I think leaders, they have to be humble, or they're going to get humbled. And I think also, I spent 20 some years in the car business, still in the car business, and had some wonderful mentors. I saw a lot of things. Oftentimes the car business has a reputation for being a lot more intense, with some. A lot of managers you'll see there that kind of lead by bullying. Fortunately, our group, the Elway group, is not like that at all. But I think even when you get into Powersports, it's a whole different type of atmosphere. So certainly in this business, AJ touched upon the millennials and trying to figure them out. And I think just the more that you don't treat you get on their level, you lead by example. I've got a brand new service manager that we just promoted. 23-year-old. He understands the business really well. He's got a sharp edge to him, and it's taking people like that just by example, just showing them you don't need to scold your employees. You hold your employees accountable, but do it the right way. And so it's so important. And I think when you surround yourself with like-minded people like that, then the culture hopefully just kind of builds itself that way.
Yeah, absolutely. AJ, you were talking about how your leadership has changed with some of the younger folks in your dealership. You want to elaborate on just other instances where leadership needs to or should change?
Yeah, I think that first we have to identify, really who our leaders are. I can remember being a very small dealership. We had 9 employees after the recession, and it was painful. And we had very little leadership, frankly, because there was an affordability issue, and it was hard. And so, it was pretty much left on one person's shoulders, mine, to I felt like a babysitter most days, and it was painful. Fortunately, as we've grown, we've been able to hire talent to help spread that leadership out. And so you identify who your leaders are. And I feel like you can raise leaders, but they almost have to have the traits up front. You can have a 23-year-old that has leadership capabilities, and you can have a 50-year-old that's a boss. And the difference between a leader and a boss is a leader is going to inspire his or her team and get the most out of them, and a boss is going to tell somebody what to do, like it or not. And typically, if you want your team to walk through a burning building for you, you need to be a leader. And so, identifying who those key players are, and then having compassion with your team and understanding there's a mission statement. Does everyone know the mission statement? Do you have a mission statement? That's really critical too. If we're all know what the mission statement is and we're going towards that goal, then that's our goal. So identify your leaders, make sure they're the right leaders and they're not just bosses, and then make sure you have a mission statement in place, and so that there's a lot of cohesiveness. So compassionate leader, and we lead more of a servant leadership store. So I always say Jesus washed feet, and that's true. I loved what you said about grabbing a hose and cleaning a bike. We were talking about the battery fire yesterday, and I was making a bike ready when nobody else was in the shop, and we had a battery fire. It's really about getting on every person's level, and if leaders are in tune with their employees, they're going to notice if they don't seem themselves. And instead of reprimand, make sure you kind of go up to that person and they're going to ask, are you okay? Is there something going on that we need to identify? That's really going to build more of a cohesive team. People are going to feel loved and cared about, and that's going to make them stick around regardless of how much you can pay them.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, we asked you guys, those of you that had lost an employee, maybe why you lost that employee. And Brent, you touched on incentives a little bit earlier, so we definitely want to circle back to that incentive aspect of things. I want to ask, what are some of those incentives that you guys have in place that have really paid off and helped retain employees? And maybe what are some of those incentives that maybe, for lack of a better term, aged out or just aren't as effective anymore? Brent, we'll go down to you. You were talking about some of those more unique ones that you have. But.
Yeah, I think the first-time home purchase, moving from a Christmas bonus to a retention bonus at the end of the season have been good. Another one that's been effective for us is vacations. A lot of people won't take vacation time. I really encourage our people to take vacations, but also for our tenured staff, as they stay around, we try and actually pay for their vacations. We just flew one of our employees, him and his family, this summer. We sent him, all four of them went down to Hawaii. We had another one, he was going to take a vacation that we were set up, and they had a family emergency, so we paid for all of them to go down. They had a death in the family and paid for him and his whole family to be able to fly down to be there for a week. And that's there's a couple things about that. I just say if you're not in your dealership utilizing a card that racks up some miles, I mean, I usually take a lot of those miles and take a lot of those benefits. But if you're using it wisely, you're going to have enough. You're going to have more miles and benefits than you could ever use. Leverage the resources of the dealership to pass those out. But I think when it comes to incentives and retention, and it's what I tell our staff all the time, I could double your income. When I was 24 and I was in sales, I quadrupled my income one year, and I went more in debt that year with literally nothing to show for it. And I tell them it's not about money. It's usually about how you use money. But I also realize even if they know that, some of us aren't good at budgeting. We're not good at budgeting for the things we really want. So vacations would be one of those. And it's kind of like that tax return. The people that they're waiting for their big tax return. I don't want a tax return. I'd rather owe the government $1,000. Some people live for that tax return. Those are the people that an incentive like a vacation, it becomes really important because they're not going to save for that trip to Hawaii for their family.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, how about with you? What are some of those things that maybe have the incentives that have aged out of your dealership, and what are some of those newer ones that you have in place?
Yeah, we've, obviously, competitive pay, competitive benefits, but we've tried a couple things that are unique that seem to be, working well. We don't offer the helping to pay for the house like Brent does, but we have, last year we did implement letting whoever wants to buy a motorcycle or a Powersports vehicle, we'll help them. Basically, we carry the note for them, so they finance it through us, and I love that because you just get them more passionate about the industry, and then they're kind of committed to you. With technicians, some of our brand new technicians, if we're taking somebody from a lot tech and training them up to be a C-Tech, we've offered a toolbox incentive, which has gone over really well, purchasing up to $4,000 worth of tools for that employee, and if they stay with us, I think we try to tie it to at least 3 years, and they kind of pay it off. They're actually not paying it off; they're paying it off with time. So if they happen to get poached by another store, they're going to have to pay us. But again, we're always asking our employees if if there's other things. I think vacation obviously is very helpful, and a lot of times people, other dealerships really discourage their employees from taking vacations during the busy time. But we try to be, just give us a heads up, and if your dad's taking you hunting, and this is the one trip you guys do, and it falls in September when we're really busy, we'll make up for it. The other leaders in our team will cover for you. So I think it's just building that culture and knowing that that we're always looking for ways to help our employees.
Yeah. AJ, we'll come to you. We were talking yesterday. You've got some employees actually retiring from the dealership, so obviously that's more than just incentives. There's a whole lot of things that you have in place that are working. But I wanted to ask you as well, are there differences between the sales side of things and the technician side of things when it comes to incentives? But talk a little bit about what you guys have going on.
So we really don't have boundaries between all of our departments. Every person is equal in the food chain. We don't have names or titles on our business card. Everybody's just got their name, including my card, because we just believe that we're all on the same level. So the sales department certainly helps the service department get rolled out and rolled in every day to help service be more productive, and vice versa. Everyone in parts comes and helps sales and service do the same thing. So as far as treating everyone equal, that's really worked for us. It creates a bonding experience for everybody to be all for one and one for all, so to speak. As far as incentives, the last 5 years we've been really blessed to be able to share some profits. So we've kind of taken a percentage of our year end and shared those profits, and everyone knows that could go away, but right now, while we're profitable, we're going to be generous. Our state does not require health insurance benefits for our employees, but we believe that it's important for them to be healthy. So we have health benefits and mental health benefits, which was unique for us. After COVID, we started seeing a lot more mental health issues that we never saw prior to COVID. Anxiety, depression, and things that were different. And it probably came from, the doom and gloom on the TV and, the extra stress with their families and people having kids home from school. And there were just a lot of things like that. We try to look at everybody as an individual. So if someone needs to leave at 3 p.m. and bring their kid they picked up from school to work, we've got an Xbox that the child can play and hang out at the motorcycle shop. We encourage that. I want as many young people getting excited about our product as possible. But also, while it's slow, we've done a staggered start. So we do 2 days off. So we stopped doing our 6-day work week during COVID. Praise God for that. And now, while it's slow, we let it, one person out of every department gets to come in at 10 o'clock instead of 9. or 8 with rollout. And we just try to be flexible with each person's needs. What do they need? What is their particular circumstance? And just try to cater to that. So we also are paying for their life insurance this year for the first time, which we felt like was really important. It's a perception. It doesn't cost us very much. It's like $9 per employee to have these added benefits per month, but the perception that we care about their family was really impactful.
Excellent. All right, guys, well, we're running out of time, so I'm going to do one last question here for you guys. You know, a lot of good thoughts, a lot of good advice for everyone here in attendance. What's maybe that one thing that you think, you know, the dealers here could take back with them and you know, put in place here in 2024? Brent, is there, you know, one thing that kind of stands out to you know, on the topic?
Yeah, I think first is just to think outside of the box. But I think just in listening to Michael and AJ, I'm just refreshed in some of the things that I was doing before COVID. I think sometimes it's good just to go back and remember some of the things that you were doing really well. And maybe it was COVID that knocked you off that track, but I think in the past, I think there's a lot of things we did really well that I'm not doing anymore. And you guys reminded me of a couple of those. So I would say remember the things you did well, and sometimes it's worth circling back to.
Absolutely. Michael, any last thoughts for these guys?
You know, I think we've shared, a lot of the same things here, just about the importance of building culture, the importance of training. I'd probably recommend, spending time in self-training. I mean, I'm just a big believer of, Simon Sinek is a great one. I'm reading a book by Jocko Willink. The Academy of Leadership is a great book. I think if you invest time in helping yourself continue to become a better leader, you can be so much more effective with your managers, helping them become better leaders. And so I think, that for me will be a never-ending, annual thing, and I'd encourage everyone else to do that if you're not already doing it.
Yeah, excellent. AJ, final thoughts?
Mine would be don't sweat the small stuff. Try to find a balance between the good that each employee brings, and if the good outweighs the bad, try to get them to work on the bad, but definitely just accept that there's going to be some things about each employee that you can't change. Tardiness used to be a real hot button for me, but I realized that of the people that are tardy, I've got equal amount that will stay late no matter what, and so that balances out, and I learned to let go of those little things. And also, the one thing I'd like to, encourage each one of you is, these employees are looking to their leaders for some face time, and setting some time away. If you're the leader and you got a smaller dealership, make sure that you put it on your calendar at least once a month to give each employee some face time. So ask them some questions. If you've got a big dealership and you've got multiple leaders, kind of ask your leaders to give each one of their staff members some individual face time. It really changes an employee's perspective of how you feel about their position and who they are to you if you give them 5 minutes and ask them a few questions. It makes all the difference.
Absolutely. All right, well, with that, again, I really want to thank all of our panelists here over the last 2 days. Brent, Michael, AJ, thank you guys so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here and listening to us here on this MPN Dealer Excellence track. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your show. Thank you.